Math.
Hi guys, so in this video we're going to look at sigma notation. Now please don't get intimidated. This is unfortunately a part of the chapter where many people get intimidated and just get a mental block against this little sign called sigma. Please don't, it's actually extremely easy. It just looks foreign and unfamiliar, but if you know the ins and outs, it's not going to be difficult. So what is sigma notation? Sigma you might recognize from Excel, or those of you that has CAT might know this formula as when you want to add up a few cells, you use this sign. Now I'll be busy with patterns or sequences, so if I want to add up a few terms, I'm going to use sigma. So they'll give you a sum that looks like these two on the screen, and let's discuss it. It's really not that tricky. So please stay with me, and I promise you it's going to be okay. Okay, so the first thing, as I said, it is adding up a few things. Now, we learned 4 formulas up to now, and 2 of them were TN formulas if I'm looking for a specific term. Like I said, sigma is the sum of a few terms if I add them up. So we are only interested in the last 2 formulas we learned, the arithmetic SN and the geometric SN. And if you can identify that, then it is as easy as the previous 2 lessons we did. So how does sigma work? There's 3 components that you need to identify. And if you know how to use them, it's very easy. So the first thing, there's always going to be a bottom number. So in this case, k is equal to 1. So that is my variable and the bottom number. Then the 20 is the top number. So I'm going to talk about that later, but just always look out for those 2. And then this can sometimes be in brackets, but the little algebra expression that's on the side is actually a TN formula for a specific pattern. Okay, so identify the top, the bottom, and the TN formula. Once you have that, you can start to write the pattern to just make your life easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sub in the bottom number into the variable. So to get term 1, I'm just going to make the k 1. Okay, and if I get the answer, this is minus 4. Now, in sigma, I start with the bottom number, and then I just take the next integer. So if I start with 1, then to get the second term, I'm just going to sub in a 2. And to get the third term, I'm just going to sub in a 3. Okay, so that means the second term in the sequence is minus 1, and the third term in the sequence is a 2. And there I have a pattern. So I can see this is an arithmetic sequence, minus 4, minus 1, and 2. So I'm adding a constant value of 3 every time. So if I do the block, I can fill in the values that I'm going to use and then get the answer. So I'm looking for SA. Remember, sigma is asking you what is the total of the following terms. Okay, I'm looking for Sn. I know my A value is term 1, my D value is 3, and now how many terms are there? Okay, so this is where this blue block at the bottom comes in. How many terms are there? I take the top value, 20, minus the bottom value, always plus 1. And that gives me the value of 20. Okay, now many of you can say, okay, but Jay, why am I using this formula? I can just see it's a 20. Okay, in the sum to the left, yes, you can just say it's 20 because I'm starting at 1. But the sum to the right, I'm starting at 3, and it goes up until 8. So there isn't 8 terms because term 1 and 2 is not there, or the value of 1 and 2 is not pertaining to k. So then I'm going to use this formula, but we're getting to that later. Okay, so I know there are 20 terms. So now I just take this purple formula, the arithmetic one that you're comfortable with by now, and I'm just going to sub in. So I'm looking for S20. I know it is 20 over 2, 2, and then my A value is minus 4, plus 20 minus 1. My D value was 3. And you are just going to sub it into your calculator, and the answer is 490. That's it. There's nothing to be scared of with a sigma sum. So let's do the one on the right. First thing I need to do is I need to figure out, is this arithmetic or geometric? I do that by getting the first 3 terms. So I'm going to sub in the bottom value into the formula. Okay. T1 is equal to 3 over 4, 3 to the power 3 minus 2. And this is then actually, if you use your calculator, 27 over 4. To get term 2, doing the same, but now I'm subbing in the next integer value. So I'm not using a 3, I'm using a 4 this time. Okay, that value is 81 over 4. And then get term 3. Okay, now you will realize by now that this is not a very nice pattern. And that would indicate that it's a geometric, because I have fractions and I'm not adding values, I'm actually multiplying by values. So this one is 343 over 4. So I can now test if I minus term 2 and term 1 and term 3 and term 2, I'm not going to get the same value. Okay, so what I'm then going to test is, what do I get if I say term 2 divided by term 1? Okay, so let's do that. Sorry, I'm just going to do it up here. 81 over 4 divided by 27 over 4. I actually get a value of 3. And now if I test it again and I do term 3, 343 over 4 divided by 81 over 4, I get an answer of 3. So that means this is a geometric sequence, and therefore I can use this formula. Okay, let's sub in and get the answer. So firstly, I need to do the block. So I'm looking for Sn because it's a sigma sum. I know A is this not very nice little value. Okay, R, we now established twice that R has a value of 3, and N. So now we're going to use this blue formula. The N is not 8. There isn't 8 terms in this pattern. They eliminated the first 2, and I'm only starting with 3. So I'm going to say 8 minus 3 plus 1, and therefore N is actually 6. Okay, now I can sub it into this formula and get the answer. So S6 is equal to my A value, 27 over 4, my R value, 3 to the power 6 minus 1, all over 3 minus 1. My calculator tells me that this answer is 2457. There we go. That is the most basic of sigma sums. Okay, so most of the time, this is what you're going to see in tests and exams. Okay, so don't get intimidated. But let's do one that's a little bit more advanced, but not too bad. Okay, if you understood the previous videos on SN for arithmetic and geometric, then you'll also be able to do this in your stride. Okay, first thing I do if I see a sigma is I get term 1, 2, and 3. So like we just saw, we take the top value and the bottom value, and we're going to sub in. So term 1 is going to be equal to 3 times 1 minus 7. Now, the ones paying attention now will realize this is the same pattern as we just did, the purple sum we did above. Okay, but now we don't know where this pattern is stopping. Okay, my top value is a P. It's not a 20 anymore. But my A value is going to be the same. So this is still minus 4. You're going to get term 2 and term 3. So 3 times 2, 3 times 3. And let's just work this out. Okay, so this is still the same. This is still minus 1. This is still 2. And now if I use my values, D and N. Okay. Now, if in a sigma sum they put an equal sign, that means they gave you the answer or the total of the value or of the pattern. Okay, so if I add all the terms, the total will be 945. But the question now is, how many terms did I add to get to 945? So I know the value of Sn. I know A is still minus 4. I know D is 3. And N is the unknown in this case. Okay, so I am just going to keep that as an N. Now I can use the formula again to sub in. So we've established that this is arithmetic because it has a constant value of 3. And now I can just sub in. 945 is equal to, I don't know what N is, just going to keep it there, but 2 times minus 4 plus N minus 1 times 3. Okay, so this is again one of those trinomial type of sums where I need to simplify this into trinomial form so I can use the formula and figure out what is N. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by 2 on both sides and just simplify this bracket a bit more. Okay, if I multiply into the bracket, minus 8n plus 3n squared minus 3n, 1890, and now I want a trinomial equal to 0. So 3n squared minus 11n, and then minus 1890. There I have a trinomial in standard form. Now I can use the quadratic formula or any other method you prefer to solve your trinomials. Just remember, you want full marks for this. So if you use your calculator, make sure your brackets are perfect and no one will suspect you use the calculator to do this. If you're uncertain, just write down the complete formula, then you don't have to worry about anything. So n is equal to my b value, so minus b plus minus, just make a big fraction, okay, b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay. If you type in that into your calculator, first with a plus, then with a minus, then you would see that n is 27, or n is equal to 70 over 3, and that is a negative value. And like we discussed, patterns cannot have a negative or a decimal n value. So therefore, I'm going to disregard that answer. I'm going to say 27 terms of this specific sequence add up to 945. Here are the steps you can follow with any sigma sum, and be sure to get it correct. I hope this made sense. We are going to do a few extra examples in a separate video so you can see how it looks exactly in exams. But don't get intimidated. This is actually free marks if you just know which formula to use.
If this video helped you, please like and subscribe.
GJ Math.